Hello and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. It's your host, Gina Casbaro, and I'm coming on today to talk all about the power of symbolism, creativity, and intuition to help you feel guided as you navigate the unknown and to help you trust yourself to take inspired actions one step at a time. This episode is going to be particularly relevant if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a trailblazer, a visionary of any kind, if there is any goal that you are working towards that you feel like your logical brain is asking you how, what are all the steps that I need to take in order to achieve X? What do I have to do? And you find yourself getting caught up in the mind, in fears and doubts and questions and worry. This is going to help you learn how to drop into your heart and listen for the intuitive guidance and inner wisdom that is so available and accessible to you to help you trust yourself, like I said, to move forward one step at a time. This topic is so important to me because, when people ask me, what's the number one thing that has supported me on my path of entrepreneurship, I always say it's my connection to my intuition. My connection to spirit, to this inner guidance and wisdom, because this path of entrepreneurship is inherently uncertain. And there is no perfect map telling me exactly how to create the life and business that I dream of and that I'm working towards every single day. And the mind wants that. The mind wants that certainty. It wants to know, it wants evidence, it wants proof, and it can get spun up in all kinds of stress, trying to control every aspect of the situation. And yet when we drop into the heart doesn't need all of that. It doesn't need to know 20 steps down the line. It can sink into this beautiful space of trusting the unknown, trusting the womb of darkness, the void. And I talk about this a lot that, the void is not something to be afraid of. We all came from this womb, we all came from this empty space. And to create anything, whether you're creating a business, whether you're creating a dream, whether you're creating anything else that feels uncertain, softening into this space and learning to trust yourself will be so valuable on your journey. So I'm going to share steps that have really helped me strengthen this muscle and skill of connecting with my intuition and learning to listen to the signs and trusting myself to act on them. And I'll also share some behind the scenes insight into what helps me create this podcast today, for example. So this episode is going to be really fun and really valuable, and I can't wait to dive into it. And I'm also going to be sharing some of my favorite practices that I've been exploring that have helped me unlock my intuition this year. If you're listening to this and it's resonating with you and you're feeling like, yes, I would love to learn how to bridge that gap between my head and my heart and trust myself more, feel more guided on my path, feel more willing to take those inspired actions, that's exactly what's waiting for you inside Own Your Becoming. And if you haven't heard me talk about this yet, Own Your Becoming is a 6-month coaching journey that's all about walking you through 5 initiations. Number 1 is Phoenix Mindset, learning to look back on your past and celebrate how far you've come instead of focusing on your failures so that you can develop a sense of confidence and courage from the inside out. Number 2 is about this. It's about learning to harmonize logic and intuition so that you can quiet the critical voices in the mind, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, and you can trust yourself and trust the intuitive guidance that you're receiving to act on it. So that you can bet on yourself and blaze your own path and trust that you can do that. You have the capacity to allow the path to appear as you walk it. The 3rd initiation is about feeling good now instead of waiting for some future date, some accomplishment, some milestone that you need to achieve in order to feel happy or successful or alive. And learning to work with feng shui, with your environment, with symbolism, with color, with imagery to help you feel into the person that you think you're going to become and actually live like them now and enjoy your life now. Number 4 is about embracing your story and learning to tell a story about yourself and your life that empowers you, one that you feel proud of and one that you are willing to share and really be celebrated in. And really let go of any ideas of being behind or not good enough and really owning your becoming and owning everything that you are. And number 5 is about letting yourself be seen in all of your glory, showing up more boldly, more authentically, more openly than ever before. If you're curious to learn more about Own Your Becoming and this incredible journey, go to ginakasbar.com/own your becoming. We begin at the end of December so that you can end this year from a place of celebration and acknowledgement and learning and begin 2026 feeling confident, feeling empowered, feeling supported, feeling inspired, all while surrounded by an incredible community of like-minded, inspiring humans who are also committed to blazing their own path and living their most authentic, inspired life. Okay, so like I said, go to the website, ginakasbar.com/own your becoming if that speaks to you. And now let's dive into these 6 steps. Okay, so let me talk about when you would use this. So again, so often as an entrepreneur, I'm in this process of creating, whether I'm creating a program or I'm creating a workshop or a webinar or just opening up to other creative ideas in my business. If I want to access this inner wisdom instead of trying to force those ideas to come from my logical mind, I will use this process. And again, same for you. Think about, is there a problem that you're trying to solve in your life? Is there something creative that you are trying to birth and you're asking yourself what's next? Are you unsure of what path to go in your life or whether to pursue, this opportunity or that opportunity? This process will support you in that, whatever it is. Okay, so step 1 of the process is to set the intention. And this is about, when it comes to our intuition, this is a skill and a muscle that can be built the more you practice it. And it's something that you can develop a relationship with. So just like a friend or someone that you're working on cultivating a deeper relationship with, that requires time, it requires attention, it requires presence, it requires patience. And the same is true when it comes to strengthening a relationship with your intuition. So step 1 is about setting the intention. That can be verbally, out loud. It can be in writing, setting the intention of, may I be open to intuitive guidance about this right now? Whether there's a certain topic that you want to open up to guidance to, whether it's simply you want to open up to whatever message would serve your highest good in this moment. Step 1 is about setting the intention and making the invitation. Because I feel like the universe, spirit, nature is always there waiting to commune with us, waiting to share with us. And we have to do our part to build that connection, to remember that we are a part of this web of life and that there is so much information available to us if we take the time to tap into that collective consciousness, to spirit energy. And it begins with setting the intention, making the declaration, may I be open to receive? May I be open to connect? So for example, this morning, I've been thinking a lot about Own Your Becoming, the 6-month program that I'm offering, as a spirit that I'm co-creating with, and that it chose me to want to work with, to want to play with, to want to dance with, to bring this spirit into life in this reality. So I've been asking it a lot for support and information. So this morning while I was journaling, I set the intention of, may I be open to intuitive guidance on what to talk about on this podcast today, and what would most resonate with my community, and what did the spirit of Own Your Becoming want to share and want to be heard and want to voice through me out into the world. So I made that declaration an invitation for that communication to flow through. So again, this is all about setting the intention of being open to receive. Number 2 is about creating the vessel. So when I think about intuition, I think about being a clear channel myself to receive that information. And again, opening the vessel, opening the door of the container so that I can be open to receive that message. So that was step 1, was the intention. Step 2 is, what is the vessel I'm creating to hold or catch this message? And there are so many different intuitive practices. Really, anything can be an intuitive practice depending on how you approach it. For example, journaling. So you can set the intention of your journal practice. May you be open to receiving information, and then allow your pen to just write like intuitive journaling, stream of consciousness wise, and answer that question. That's one way. You can use oracle cards. That can be a vessel to receive these intuitive messages and guidance that are waiting for you. You can go for a walk by yourself in nature. You can walk around the block in your neighborhood. And again, with that intention that may you be open to receive this message. So often for me, part of creating the vessel is about being alone, creating time, space, presence to receive, and doing something that helps me get out of my mind and into my heart or into my body and just be open to perceive messages, to take in information. Whether that's being outside in nature and noticing the way a leaf falls from a tree, or the colors that you notice, or the animals or the sounds that you hear, and letting your heart, letting your intuition piece together a message for you that resonates, that maybe is just what you need to hear right now. So today for me, the vessel that I created for capturing intuitive guidance about this podcast was going for a walk. So earlier today, I went for a walk, and as I took that first step, I set the intention of, may I be open to receive inspiration for this podcast, the message that wants to be shared in this moment. And I started walking. And as I started walking, the first thing I noticed was my mind telling me, you're behind. You should have recorded this podcast earlier. It's too late. I don't really, a message isn't coming through right now. I don't want to force this. And luckily, I was able to catch those thoughts and notice these thoughts are not supporting me to be creative. They're not supporting my clarity. They're not making space for ideas to flow through any easier. So I choose to think instead, there's ideas right below the surface, just waiting for me. The spirit of Own Your Becoming is here, ready to support me and ready to collaborate with me. I know there is a valuable message inside of me that's just waiting to be shared. And I asked myself the question, what would be fun to share about right now? What would resonate with my community to share about right now? What am I excited to talk about right now? What's inspiring me? And the idea for this podcast episode just flowed through. And that's the power of, again, creating the space and the vessel to catch this idea. And also the power of the Phoenix mindset and noticing when the mind might be making it more challenging for us to receive that. If the mind is, again, spinning in thoughts, fears, anxieties, it's like closing the jar of the vessel and making it much harder to receive that information. So that's why the Phoenix mindset is a huge part of Own Your Becoming and the work I do with clients. Okay, so again, step 2 of the process is creating that vessel, finding an activity that you can do by yourself that creates space to be present, that helps you be open to your senses and be open to messages that come through. Things for me can also be a shower, a walk, things that get you into your body. Writing, drawing are all powerful vessels that you can use to receive intuitive guidance. Another favorite practice for me this year has been drawing, and using drawing as this powerful way to, again, get out of the mind trying to figure it out. So for example, if you are journaling and you're asking yourself a question of what's the message that would serve me most right now? And you find your brain trying to think of the answer, doodling and drawing could be a powerful way to, again, bridge that gap to your heart and just let your pen draw whatever. It could be circles, it could be shapes, it could be squiggly lines, whatever it is, and then see if a message might come through after that. And for me, so often it does. And I've started to use this practice intentionally in inviting in guidance from different spirits, whether it's, again, I want to connect to the spirit of own your becoming, or I want to connect to the spirit of my house, or I want to connect to a certain god or goddess or any other type of entity or being of a light. I can intentionally ask and invite that connection in, and then see, do you have a message for me? Do you want to write it or do you want to draw it? And I'll see what comes through. And for me, I often get messages in the form of poems and drawings, which have been super fun recently. And like I said, this is a relationship that you're building. So the more that you experiment with different tools and practices, the more you'll see how the universe, how spirit, how your guides want to connect with you. And you'll learn the language of your intuition in a more proficient way. You'll become more fluent in whatever that language is for you. The third step of this process is about capturing your insights. So another way to really strengthen the muscle and skill of intuition is by tracking evidence. And this is, again, finding harmony between logic and intuition, because the brain wants proof. It wants evidence. It wants something tangible to hold on to. So great, let's give it evidence. So anytime that you see a sign, anytime that you receive an intuitive message, you can track that somehow. So my favorite ways to track it are, I have this journal that I use with my clients. It's a year ahead journal, and there's space to track signs, evidence, synchronicities all year, month by month. And you can do this in a number of ways. You can have your own designated journal to capture these things. You can have a notes section on your phone that captures things so you always have it in the moment. I used to also take pictures of things that felt like signs and save an album on my phone that said signs. You can take voice recordings on your phone when you want to remember something like this. Whatever you do, there's so much value in capturing this evidence, in tracking these signs and synchronicities so that you can reinforce to your brain what happened. What happened when you noticed that? How did that leave you feeling? And as time goes by, you can see what happens when you follow those breadcrumbs. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. But for this step, it's about capturing these signs and evidence and synchronicities, because what you focus on expands. So instead of the mind spiraling in fear, doubt, and worry, especially when you're in a moment in your life that feels uncertain, or feels like you're in a phase of in-between, or you don't know what's next, instead of getting stuck in all of those thoughts, you can look for evidence of how you're supported and how you're guided. And after doing this for 5+ years, I am constantly in awe about how the universe communicates to me. And it's just so funny sometimes because it's so clear and it's so relevant and resonant with whatever it is that I'm experiencing right now. It makes it really hard to sink back into those thoughts of like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. Because it's like, look, you've always been supported. You've been supported every step of the way for the past 5 years and beyond. Of course, you're going to be supported moving forward. So it just strengthens that inner sense of trust and makes it a lot easier to feel comfortable inside of the chaos of what the unknown can feel like sometimes. Okay, step 4 of the process is surrender needing to know. So what I mean by this is, let's say that you've set the intention to receive intuitive guidance, you've created the container, and maybe you received something that feels like a sign. Maybe you pulled oracle cards and you got a message. Maybe you created a collage. That's another favorite practice that I use for this journal. And maybe you're not quite sure yet how to interpret that. Something feels meaningful about it, but you don't quite know how it applies to everything. Your question still isn't really answered 100% yet. And I find that that's often how intuition works. It can be subtle. Sometimes it can be obvious, and oftentimes it can be subtle. And that clarity can unfold with time. So maybe you see a sign and later on that day or next week, you're in the shower and some other synapse fires in your brain and the clarity that you were searching for comes through. Or maybe you asked for a sign and you didn't see anything the rest of the day. And maybe it took a week for you to see that sign. So it's about also being open to receive the messages in whatever way they come through, in whatever divine timing they come through it. And inviting in trust and patience and building the belief that the signs will come, the messages will present themselves. And even if things don't feel crystal clear in this moment, that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's not working, just to be able to be patient and continue to set aside time to build that relationship. Again, it's like you're dating someone. You're like dating your intuition. And if the first conversation that you have with them, to not expect to learn everything about them in that moment and to trust that relationship is going to evolve over time and that you're going to learn more and more information every time you connect, every time you spend time together. So really coming back to that belief that building this connection with your intuition is like building a relationship. Okay, so step 4 is surrender, needing to know. And step 5 is about the power of reflect and remember. So this builds off of the importance of tracking evidence. And that's the reason why I have this journal that I can track evidence for month to month and year after year. Because like I said, maybe this month, the signs I'm receiving aren't crystal clear, or I'm not sure how they weave into this larger tapestry yet. And if I come back to these messages as time progresses, it becomes clear. So I'm recording this episode in December, and now I have a year's worth of evidence. I have a year's worth of oracle card messages. I have a year's worth of collages of art and creative practices. And I can see the whole story looking back that I might not have been able to see in the moment I was in it. So that's the power of revisiting the evidence that you've tracked. And there's messages that I come back to again and again and again because they are so meaningful and so impactful for me. And it's integrating them into my being, integrating them into my belief system so that it does rewire how I see life, how I see myself, how I view the unknown, and I can feel supported by these messages again and again. So they're not just like fleeting sparks of inspiration that I don't remember as time passes. And this is where I love involving feng shui and the power of symbolism and interacting with sensory, physical, tangible objects to help me remember the intuitive messages I'm receiving. For example, I shared on my social media on Instagram recently that I have a compost pile out in my backyard that all year I've just been, putting my food scraps in. And probably 4 months ago or something, a squash started growing. And I thought, oh, that's fun. It was like growing out of the compost pile. And for the longest time, it wasn't growing any flowers or any squash. And then it started growing flowers, but again, it wasn't growing any squash. So I was just like, okay, let it do its thing. And finally, a month or so ago, it started growing this squash. And it became this like little baby squash. And recently I took the squash and made a delicious soup out of it. And as I was making this soup, I was like praying and infusing my intentions into this squash that may I remember and take this as evidence that beautiful fruits can grow simply through my composting, simply through me living my life and integrating all of my experiences. And that I don't have to force things to happen. I can be open to receiving that and letting things be easy. And I, like I said, prayed all of this into the squash as I was, stirring and cooking my soup. And then every time I took a bite of this soup, I am ingesting this message. And physically, literally, energetically, it is integrating into my being, into my body. So that's the power of taking these messages one step further so that you can be reminded of every day this intuitive guidance. And then there's things that can be more tangible, like this necklace I'm wearing right now represents a symbol that came through for me recently in meditation. It reminds me to connect to this passion inside of me, this fire inside of me, and it reminds me that I am protected and supported. And this necklace, I found the charm anyways, recently, right before I was about to do this photo shoot. This photo shoot that was the first branding photo shoot I've had in like 5 years for my business, where I really wanted to embody and own my becoming of all the ways that I've grown in the past 7 years and beyond. And I wanted to be wearing something that was a reflection of that felt meaningful to me. And this necklace just showed up. There was a vendor outside of the space where I facilitate with Sparkle Space, the dance community I'm a part of, and it showed up right on time a couple days before this photo shoot. And every time I wear it, it reminds me of this passion, of this fire, of this light inside of my heart and soul, and why I do the work that I do. So again, this is a sign I get to see and I can wear anytime I want to reconnect to and remember that feeling of support, that feeling of divine guidance, and it helps me embody that every time I put it on. So again, there's all different ways that you can do this. You can paint a mural on your wall. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, this mural to me represents the essence of following your spark, and that the path is not totally linear. It can have twists and turns and be this beautiful journey. So it reminds me every day of that message and all the ways that I've been guided to this work and share these stories on this podcast. So for you, how do you feel called to remember this evidence that you're tracking? Do you want to sit with your journal once a month? Do you want to get jewelry that embodies the messages that you're receiving? Do you want to surround yourself with artwork that reminds you of these things? What could that look like for you? Number 6, and the final step, is about trusting the process and take it one step at a time. So when it comes to intuitive guidance, intuitive messages, sparks, signs, synchronicities, now it's up to you to follow them. You've received this information, and part of trusting your intuition is trusting yourself to take a step into the unknown without needing to know exactly where it's going to lead, needing to know exactly where you're going to end up a year from now, 5 years from now, and being able to trust that you are receiving enough information in this moment to go off on. One of my spiritual teachers, Jamie Alvarez Acosta, always says, faith without action is not faith. So there's this balance of being able to receive this information, these intuitive messages from the universe, and then it's up to us to act on them, to take those inspired steps forward so that we are reinforcing we do trust. We do trust ourselves. We do trust the messages that we receive. And that's when more signs come, more information comes, when we're willing to walk. So I hope that this process gave you some more insight on how you can strengthen this muscle and this relationship with your intuition so that you do feel more guided on your path and more courageous to take those steps forward. And if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, I would love support and additional guidance and practice in these tools, this is exactly what we're going to work on and own your becoming. One of the ways we're going to do that is through a monthly spark session. So this is a session that I've been doing for myself every month for many, many years. And it's all about making sacred time and space every month to connect with your desires, to connect with what's most important to you, to connect with your overarching vision for the year or beyond, and then to tap into intuition, creativity, feng shui, to use these different kinds of practices to help you receive messages and to take this as an opportunity to reflect, to remember, to set aligned intentions and to declare what you're ready to focus on and what you're ready to move forward towards. In Own Your Becoming, we're going to do this inside of a beautiful community. So you'll have space to share, you'll have space to connect, you'll have space to learn from each other. And what I often find happens is sometimes what someone shares ends up being the exact message that you need to hear in this moment. And so it's always a beautiful container to see who comes through and trust that it's a divine community, divinely connected community. And I'm always amazed by the synchronicities that show up inside of those relationships. And like I said, this is a 6-month journey where you also have one-on-one coaching so that you can work on developing that Phoenix mindset, to open up to clarity of your goals, to have accountability on the inspired actions that you're taking every single week. And we also do a feng shui identity audit. This can be done in person or virtual, where we look at your space and explore how we can work with your environment to help you feel the way that you want to feel now and embody this version of you that feels far off and really bring them into this moment. And then we'll also work on embracing and sharing your story. And you'll have the opportunity, if you so choose, to be interviewed on this podcast. And you'll receive coaching on refining your message and feeling proud of your journey and proud of the story that you have to tell. And getting comfortable being more visible and putting your message, your work, if you're an entrepreneur, your passions, your purpose out into the world. And then you'll also, if you're local to Baltimore, have the opportunity to be involved in an in-person professional photo shoot. And like I've shared a little bit in the past couple episodes, I just went through this branding photo shoot that was a deep initiation and such a powerful experience to have my energy and essence be translated through my clothes, through how I carry myself, through how I allow myself to be seen. And it's going to be this beautiful opportunity to be celebrated and recognized inside of community and have something really tangible to capture this. And if you're not local to Baltimore, we'll find and create a ritual together that can be this for you, be an opportunity for you to let yourself be seen bigger and brighter and bolder than ever before. So if this speaks to you, go to ginacasbara.com/own-your-becoming and book a free clarity call and let's talk. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we're beginning this first round at the end of December. So if this calls to you, don't wait. Give yourself that permission to follow the spark and see what happens. Trust that intuitive guidance if you are feeling that call in your heart, something that's leaning forward, something that's sparking curiosity for you. Take the step, book the call, and find out what happens when you listen to that. Because again, like I've talked about in this episode, the universe is a co-creator with you, and it's up to us to take inspired actions. So let this be an inspired action. If it's something that is calling to you, go to ginacasbara.com/own-your-becoming, book a free clarity call, and we'll explore if this work is right for you. All right, my friend, I am wishing you all the best, sending you so much love. I hope you have fun with these practices and open up to all the beautiful wisdom and guidance your intuition has for you. Talk to you soon.